Hello, everybody. I'm Carrie, and as of a couple of months ago, I'm now working at SoundCloud, but I used to work at the BBC, working on the iPlayer Radio app as an Android developer. So that explains why my slides contain the iPlayer Radio app. So I'm going to talk about some accessibility tips. So the main thing that people think of when they think of accessibility is Talkback. So Talkback is similar to VoiceOver on iOS. So it's an accessibility service, so it essentially reads out everything that you might use on your phone, so you can just use your phone if you're blind or partially sighted. And it's quite different. Talkback's quite different across different devices and different OS versions, so it's always worth to try out a few different versions. So one of my tips is to set up your device efficiently. So take an hour, learn some of the settings on your device. So try using Talkback, enable it. Also have a look at the developer settings, because one of the things that I find quite helpful is the layout bounds. So this will show you things like how large your touch area is and whether or not people are going to be able to click it. So this isn't to do with blind users, but this is just about generally making your app accessible. Also, speech output is quite helpful, so you don't actually have to listen to the speech all the time. You can actually just read it at the bottom of the screen, so that makes it a little bit faster. You can set the speaking rate a little bit faster, so if, like me, you speak quite quickly, it can be quite slow, so it's always quite good to do that. Use the shortcuts, so hopefully you can see that. One of the ones I would recommend is in the second shortcut you can see read from top. So read from top is actually quite helpful because it shows you the focus order. So you can use Talkback in two different ways. You can use Explore by Touch, which is essentially when you run your hand over the screen, you can find different things. I've actually got a slide of it here. And the one on the right is you can just swipe to move focus. So focus order is very important. I think people, when they switch accessibility on, they don't realize that. So focus order is actually very important because when somebody's more familiar with your app, they tend to use your app in that way rather than using Explore by Touch. So have a look at that. I would recommend getting some stats about your users. So you can, with the Accessibility Manager, you can find out if people are using touch exploration or if they have any sort of accessibility services on. What they do at the BBC is with every screen view, they send a stat to say whether or not they got that enabled, and then you can monitor, you can track and see which screens users are finding particularly difficult. The main thing is don't forget content descriptions. This is a really basic thing. You can use lint to find any images, any buttons which don't have content descriptions. It's really important. Otherwise people will just read things like button unlabeled, and it's completely useless to blind and partially sighted people. The good thing is you get it for free. So in the first two examples, you'll see it already has text, the button already has text on it, so you don't need to do anything for that. It will just read out the text that's on screen. In the second one, we've got a drawable as well. But in the third example, it's just an image, and so Talkback doesn't know what to do if it's just an icon. 2 minutes. One thing at the BBC, the style guide suggests that you have your duration labels set with M and H and S, so minutes, hours, and seconds. That reads out meters when you have Talkback on, so if you're going to do that, you have to set content descriptions explicitly. So it's a little bit of a pain, but it's something that you'll find, especially if you have the Talkback enabled. So this is an example of a clickable text view. So this is quite common. If you want to have something that looks like a button, you might use a text view. You might set it to be clickable, but the problem with that is it doesn't give you the hint that it's a button. There's one horrible way where you could actually put the text button in the content description. This is a really bad idea. You will get that for free if you just make that thing a button. The only downside that I can see to making it an actual button element is that you get some free styling which you need to take off. So it might all caps, it might have a background image, so you just need to take that off. Try different font sizes. So the one on the right should be a larger font size. So this is actually a very common thing for people to do. They might change the font size. So the easiest way is just use SP to define the font sizes, and you'll get this for free. Just make sure you try it with different font sizes. On the iPlayer Radio app, we had a report from a user that they couldn't see when on the alarm which days were set. So on the top you can see. The one on the right is when it's been put through a colour blindness test. I can't remember off the top of my head the type of colour blindness, but the user couldn't tell which days were selected, so what we decided to do is put circles around it as well. You can group relevant information, so you get this for free. I've got 15 seconds left. So yeah, this is just so that it doesn't read out too much stuff. You can hide things from Talkback. So if, in this example, you don't want an image, for example, you can hide that. And I will skip over that slide, and that's the end.
Thank you.